Hi, this is Frederick from Detroit, Berlin, and today I'm going to show you the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO from Doepfer. It's the A-110-4 and in short it's the QZ VCO. It's a voltage controlled oscillator, so a sound generator. It is a pure sine wave, and a pure sine wave means that the sine wave is not made by filtering another kind of wave. It's a pure sine wave, and that means, yeah, it's very round, very pretty, very soft, and yeah, it sounds nice, and it sounds a little bit damped, of course, because it doesn't have any overtones, because like I mentioned, it is a pure sine wave, and it's also, yeah, through zero, which means that if you have the sine wave and you go through zero, you actually have the inverted sine wave, so that like it's phase shifted 180 degrees. It's a Quadrature Thru 0 VCO, which means you have the 0 degrees, which is the normal sine. Then you have a phase shift of 90 degrees, and you have both inverted signals, so that means the normal inverted will be 180 degrees and the 90 degrees inverted will be the 270 degrees. So yeah, it has 4 possible phase shifts, the normal and the 3 derived from the normal. It has a sine and a cosine output. That's, yeah, the only outputs it has. It has advantages. It is a pure sine, so yeah, you can do a lot with it. At first sight, it's pretty tame and, yeah, uninteresting, but I have a few things in petto which will show that pure sine wave, you can really do nice things with it, because it lacks those overtones, and that means you can create overtones by modifying that pure sine wave. You have a clean slate, and upon that you can build. Why through zero, you might ask? If you frequency modulate a through zero VCO instead of a normal VCO, whether it be in exponential frequency modulation or linear frequency modulation, it gives a different result. So we will have a look at that. I set up 2 VCOs, the standard one and the through zero, and we will do some comparing, and that way you can see where the through zero really shines. I think it's more musical. And if you want, you can download these patches I'm making. I have patch notes, and those are on my Patreon. So if you want to support this channel, you can go to my Patreon page, have a look there, and you can download the patch notes of this video and previous videos. So head over and please support me on Patreon. Let's start comparing. So first, I will bring in the through zero. On the oscilloscope you can follow the first being the red one, so the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO is the red. This is tracked and it's stable, and the green is the standard VCO. You see the little notch at the top, and that means when I bring in that one, you have this little buzz. So it's not a pure sine wave, but it's close. It is a little bit rounder, and it has that little little notch. So let's bring in the Thru 0 VCO again, and let's try to frequency modulate. So So frequency modulation of the through zero, and now let's go back to the standard VCO and let's frequency modulate that one. It's more kind of a raw sound. It dances more all over the place. When we go back to the much cleaner, much rounder sounding sine wave of the through zero, it doesn't change pitch so radically as with the normal VCO. It kind of keeps the tone, so it's cleaner overall. And then you also have linear, which is much more subtle. And later in this video I will show you a few ways to expand upon this signal and really make nice sounds and interesting sounds and soundscapes with this. I will go over the patch real quick before I press play. Got the matriarch sequencer going through both VCOs. That's playing a melody. Those are tuned the same way. You have both exponential frequency modulation, which I will turn up. Then I have the first oscillator from the matriarch going with multiple different waveforms, but I'm starting with a triangular waveform that's going in both exponential frequency modulation inputs on standard and through zero VCO, which is of course that waveform from the matriarch is going at kind of the same melody, so it's staying in tune. And it's nice to hear the difference between the standard and the through zero VCO. Let's press play and let's bring in the Quadrature Thru zero VCO. No overtones yet, really clean sine wave. Let's bring in the frequency modulation. Begins like a little bit a trembling vibrato kind of sound. And it gets intenser. Almost ring modulation sounds, but more musical. And if you take a look at the waveform, it gets modulated and it gets frequency modulated. Like this. Let's turn that down, and now this is a standard VCO. I will do just the same. Quickly becomes really unstable. It sounds nice though, but not the same. Still got that buzz. it gets like not really very musical, but more like hectic. Gets more intense. It sounds nice. Now it's fully open. This is a Thru Zero, which is much cleaner and much more, in my opinion, musical. It's more pretty sounding. And I like both. Both have their way of doing things. Let's maybe see how we can use this Quadrature Thru VCO and shape the outgoing signal. So let's make another patch. Let's expand upon this patch and yeah, let's see what sounds we can come up with. Here I have a patch of the Quadrature Thru VCO, which is still modulated by the matriarch, but this time a square pulse out to the Quadrature Thru VCO. Also doing that with the standard VCO, and I will be switching between those two. And the sine output is going into the wave multiplier, on which I already did a video. Please check that out. I will leave a link in the comment section down below. It's very gently wave multiplying the signal. Let's have a listen. Let's play the sequence. No modulation, frequency modulation going on right now. So let's open that up. It stays pretty, it gets complexer. I'm going not to touch the wave multiplier yet. I'm going to turn that down. Use the standard VCO now. Standard VCO, which is of course a bit brighter. Apply the frequency modulation over there. Directly derails and really gets intense. And it's really not really pleasant to listen to. Okay, let's go back. Much cleaner. Totally different sound, and it stays controlled. Let's try the exponential. It stays really musical and it takes way longer to derail. Although this is ear piercing a little bit, sorry for the dogs out there, they will be like, oh. But still, it's in my opinion, it's still much more musically useful. Even this is harsh, but still nice. Pretty nice. And let's now maybe play around a little bit. Turn the frequency linear frequency control down. Get these really FM-ish sounds in a totally analog way. And here we go into the negative. Almost computer sounds, pretty nice sounds. You have a vast array of sounds with only this sine being modulated. Maybe let's switch back to the other one, the standard VCO, and that's, in my opinion, unpleasant to listen to. So high, so yeah, I'm going to unplug this and let's just try another waveform, because you don't have those waveforms on the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO. But it's still, it is pretty harsh. This is almost, yeah. It's not working well with the wave multiplier because, yeah, you don't have this softness in a square pulse. This can maybe work better. Then you turn up that frequency modulation. This is still pretty okay. This is pretty nice. This is really nice. Let's turn it all the way up and compare it to the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO, the sine. Totally different. So broad. Let's play with the multiplier. This is pushing it. And let's now switch over to the full exponential mode with the standard VCO. Which is not that bad, but the wave multiplier, it doesn't do a lot because it's not that round anymore. So let's switch back over to the Quadrature VCO. My conclusion to using that wave multiplier, that kind of wave shaping module from Doepfer, the A-110-4, in my opinion, it is much more useful in combination with a nice clear sine wave. When using frequency modulation, you can tame the signal much better, keep it much more musical, send it through like the wave multiplier, and have, yeah, way more subtle control over how you shape the tone. Let's go over all the controls of the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO. We begin at the top, and this is a 1 volt per octave input. You send the pitch there to have the VCO play a tune, play it with a keyboard or with a sequencer. Send it to the 1 volt per octave input, which is connected to the bus board. So if you have a bus access module connected, you can send a signal to the bus board. If you send that pitch signal there, you can control the Thru 0 VCO's pitch via the bus board. When you're not using anything on the bus board, then you can have a jumper removed or positioned differently to disconnect it from the bus board, the pitch. So that's important to do that because it sends kind of a voltage there and it can interfere with other VCOs connected to the bus board. So if you don't use them, disconnect it by using the jumper. The next input is the control input of the frequency modulation. You send an oscillator or an LFO there, or a control voltage to control the frequency modulation, to actually modulate the frequency. And you have kind of an attenuator next to it. Then you got the linear frequency modulation input. Send also VCO, LFO, control voltage in there to control the linear frequency modulation. The other one is the exponential. Then you have the sine output and the cosine output. If you take a look at the knobs, you have the 1 volt per octave input, and next to it is the X tune. So that means you can tune the module over here. You can tune it. Then you got the X FM, so exponential FM. The third knob is the linear frequency. So because it's Thru 0, if you point the knob all the way up, it's pointing towards the 0 position and it will be close to not moving at all. Then when you turn it up, you turn it in a positive way. If you turn it down, you turn it in a negative way. So it has the inversed signal. And then the linear frequency modulation. So it's an attenuator to that input. The exponential is an attenuator to that input. And then you got the TZ control, which shows you a red LED when you're in positive direction. It shows an orangey yellow LED when it's in negative position. So that's everything about the controls of this module. Before I forget to mention it, the Quadrature Thru 0 VCO is a nice addition. If you have a frequency shifter from Doepfer, you can expand upon that frequency shifter if you combine it with this Quadrature Thru 0 VCO. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So the patch notes of this video are available on my Patreon, so please join my Patreon if you want to support me and download the patch notes. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.